Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shuck. I make videos for NBA. That's coming up in a few days, and NFL. All these videos, they get posted on this Reddit where I make updates with all of the news that comes out through the day and what that changes for me. There is some news we need to monitor for this slate, etc. So this will be linked down below in the comments. So if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, here are my Twitter handles. So let's go over my lineups from today. I show you guys my lineups every single slate so you can gauge how I am doing. So we will go over these really quickly. I think that's all of them. So let's, oh no, GPP lineup. Here it is. So we'll go over my lineups together. Like I said, I go over them with you guys every single day. You can skip past this if you want, to show you my results. Because I don't think enough people do this. So my GPP lineup, it was just unfortunate. Joe Burrow couldn't do anything against the just putrid pass defense of Tennessee. So GPP is kind of were a wash for me. But as you guys know, most of my volume, 80% of my volume to 90% of my volume is cash games. So GPPs were not great as I went with Joe Burrow stacks. Cash games went phenomenally. So this is my main slate cash. As you guys can see, I went with Russell Wilson, and the reason I did not go to AOC or Dorian Thompson-Robinson was because I didn't think going down to them opened up enough for me to make it worth it to swap to them. Like, I don't know if I want to trust a rookie quarterback, and I didn't think the upgrades were good enough. Like, I think the pivot I was checking out was AOC and Jamar Chase versus Russ and Puka. And I thought Puka was, pretty close to Chase in projection. And I thought Russ was just far and away better than like AOC and DTR. So I didn't think it was worth it. So that was my thought process there. The cash quarter that I had was Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, Keenan Allen, and Joshua Palmer. I forget if I had a fifth. I don't think so. And then I rounded out my lineup with Puka Nacua, Adam Thielen, Chig Okonkwo, and Brown's defense. So main slate cash went phenomenally. Afternoon cash went phenomenally as well. The core that I had for afternoon cash was AOC, Tony Pollard, Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer, Christian McCaffrey. So it gave a core of 5, nuked, went very well. And then I rounded out my lineup with Josh Jacobs, Quentin Johnson, and Zach Ertz with Chargers defense. Alright, let's get on to the showdowns. The showdown cash did not go great. I was debating a 2v2, but both lineups didn't cash, so it's fine. But the core that I had for cash and tournaments was Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyler Conklin. GPPs went great. I went Allen Lazard in the captain, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Garrett Wilson, Zach Wilson, Tyler Conklin. Played the core as per usual. GPPs went great. So overall, a really good day, like plus $300-$400 day for me. With cash games doing well. So yeah, let's get into this breakdown of the slate. I'm not going to bore you guys to death. We're going to make this a quick 5 minutes, and we'll get you guys out of here. So before we do that, like I said, this will be down below in the comments, the Reddit post, and then my Discord will be in the Reddit post where, I have private videos, player pools for cash and tournaments, cores and stuff like that. Just a whole bunch of stuff. So that'll be in that below. Alright, let's go over the slate. So I absolutely hate Ken Walker on the slate. See, the fish, and I mean the absolute fish that don't look at advanced stats, don't look at snap counts and other stuff like this, won't realize this, but let's take a look at his snap counts from week 3. They're increasing Charbonnet's snaps. They are decreasing Ken Walker's snaps. So if you got a guy playing about 50% of the snaps, you got a guy gaining snaps, he's 10 point, almost 11K. I just think it's a pretty bad play, especially if he gets ownership. Now, if he's going to be low owned, sure, go for it. Take shots, but I still think he's way overpriced. So do what you want with that. Do what you want with the info. If he's lower owned, I'm fine with it. If he's going to be popular, I absolutely hate it. I think Charbonnet is just a way better play if you consider price point. So Ken Walker, definitely out on him. Geno Smith at 10K, I think is a solid play. I definitely do prefer Daniel Jones. As you guys know, I always prefer quarterbacks that have more rushing upside. Daniel Jones has more rushing upside. He's cheaper, so I definitely do prefer Daniel Jones to Geno Smith. But that doesn't mean Geno's a bad play. I think he's a solid play. He has a really high ceiling as well. We know Geno likes to air the ball out a ton. 41 attempts week 2, 36 week 3. So, yeah, I think he's a pretty good play. Talented pass catchers to go along with them. So I like Geno. I think I just prefer Daniel Jones a little bit more. As far as the wide receivers go for Seattle, you have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. These two are going to basically play the entire game. As you guys know, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this plenty of times, is when you play Tyler Lockett, it's always DK Metcalf that goes off. Or when you play DK Metcalf, it's always Tyler Lockett that goes off. So if you want my favorite, I don't have one. I don't. This is what I will say though. If you want ceiling, which is what I always prefer in tournaments, that is going to be DK Metcalf. I always prefer ceiling in tournaments. Now, if you're talking about a cash game setting and you want floor, I think Tyler Lockett has the higher floor. But personally, I do prefer DK Metcalf. I just think he has a little bit of a higher ceiling between Tyler Lockett. So there's my answer. I prefer DK Metcalf. But just know I'm going to play DK and Tyler Lockett's going to absolutely nuke. But yeah, I think they're both solid plays. I think I prefer DK for the ceiling. You have JSN at 5K. I wished he was playing a little bit more snaps. As you guys see here, he played. Where is JSN? Played about half the game, a little bit less than half the game. So 5K, I'm just kind of indifferent there. He's just like a fine play. If you land on him as the last minute, cool, whatever. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's whatever. I think the kickers, they're always solid values. We'll talk about a lot of value on this slate. There is quite a bit of value, but yeah, I think Myers is good. Definitely a pretty good kicker. The defense is playable. It's always going to depend on ownership for me. If they're going to be low owned, sure, I'm fine taking shots there. If they're going to be owned like tonight, like the Chiefs defense, then I want absolutely nothing to do with it, right? So going to be a wait and see approach to see what I think the ownership will come in on the defenses. And then we have Charbonnet, who I think stands out as a pretty good value. Like I said, taking a look at the snap counts, he played 32 of the 75 snaps, was in on 16 of those passing plays, had 9 attempts for 46 yards, averaged 5.1 a carry, got 2 targets. I even think there's a chance his snaps could go up this game, but 3.4K I think is a pretty good value for the reasons I just stated. Snaps going up, he's cheap, etc. So I do like Charbonnet quite a bit. And then let's talk about this tight end situation. So we have Disley and Font questionable. I believe one, if not both, will play. But let's go over all the situations. So if they three are all in, let's take a look back to week 2 and what happened with, I believe all 3 were in this week. Yeah, they were. With all 3 in, they played Disley 37, they played Parkinson 36, and they played Noah Font 33. So if all 3 are in, I think Font's the best play between the 3, but he's also the most expensive. I think Parkinson and Disley, they're both fine darts. They're more so blocking tight ends, but they're also going to get some targets, right? They're using a lot of tight ends. They like their tight ends. So I think they're all viable punts, and I don't hate it at all. I think they're solid. I would prefer one or both to be out, but if they're running a ton of routes and if they're playing a ton of snaps and they're this price points, they definitely are in play for tournaments. As far as cash, I haven't really messed with builds. We'll see. So if they're all in, I like Font the most, and then Parkinson and Disley I think are viable punts. If we get a situation like last week where one of them is out, we can get a little bit of a sample size on what they did then. So when one of them was out, they basically ran 2 tight ends pretty much the entire game. They played for Parkinson 53 of the 75 snaps. They played Font 47 of the 75 snaps. So let's say Disley's out and Font's in, then I think it's a boost to Font. He's going to be on the field a ton. He would be a solid value. And then Parkinson I think would be even more in play, too solid. So keep an eye on that news. We'll monitor when it happens, always make updates on Reddit. And then if we get a situation where like Disley and Font are out, then yeah, fire up Parkinson. I think he'd be a good value. So keep an eye on that. definitely interesting there. And then the last guy that we have to talk about is Jake Bobo. Got into the end zone last week. Not going to play a ton of snaps. Played 31 of the 75 snaps, but he does have a ceiling. He's only $200. I don't mind it for large field tournaments now. You're probably going to have to hope he gets into the end zone, but got into the end zone last week. I think it's fine. I think he's playable for tournaments. Fine dart. But clearly my favorite value of this group is going to be Charbonnet, and I don't think it's close right now with the news that we have. So that is the Seattle side. Let's go over to the Giants side of this game. So we have Saquon Barkley doubtful. As you guys know, I do prefer Daniel Jones to Geno Smith. I just prefer the rushing upside, and I think game log watchers are going to see these games and just get a little bit scared. But you have to look at the teams that they were playing. They played two of the best defenses in the NFL in the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. Just two really, really tough spots. As you see, when it went up against Arizona, he had a ceiling game. Daniel Jones has a big ceiling. You got in the rushing upside. So, yeah, I think Daniel Jones is too cheap. I think he should be like 10 to 10.5K. So, really high on Daniel Jones. And I like Darren Waller quite a bit at 7K. He also is just playing a ton of snaps. Last week, he played 41 of the 50 snaps. He is their clear best receiver, in my opinion, or pass catcher, I mean. 7 targets week 3, 8 targets week 2. Pretty high floor, and if he gets into the end zone, he definitely has slate breaking upside. So I'm really in on Waller. I think Breida is great too. I think another guy that is just too cheap. Breida's going to play 70-80% of the snaps. He's in on a bunch of passing plays as well. Just too cheap. They're at home. I always like running backs at home. So sign me up for some Breida, just way too cheap. Really like Waller, really like Breida. As far as the wide receiver situation goes for the Giants, they're kind of playing Hodgins and Slayton the most. And then they're mixing in like Wandale, Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt. So it's kind of a sticky situation. I think Slayton is my favorite of the bunch just because he'll be in for the most snaps. He has a high ceiling. They'll target him on deep passes, etc. So I think Slayton of the bunch is definitely my favorite. Hodgins, kind of like JSN, kind of just like indifferent there. I think Slayton's just a better play in my opinion, especially if you factor in ceiling. Gano, solid value. Defense, we already went over. And then you have Wandale Robinson and Paris Campbell. Right now, I'm just going to prefer Paris Campbell because he's playing more snaps, even though Wandale Robinson, in my opinion, is the better player. But taking a look at these snap counts, Wandale only played 11 snaps. Paris Campbell played 21. So Campbell getting about double the snaps of Robinson. So I'm just going to prefer Campbell as of right now. Wandale Robinson was $200 last week. I believe I had him as a core play, and he absolutely smashed. So I don't mind it. I think it's fine. I think right now I just do prefer Campbell. And then Hyatt, my least favorite of the group, not getting enough snaps, but did play more than those guys, I think. Yeah, played 16 snaps, 14 pass plays, or 14 routes. Boomer bust, high ceiling, low floor, just another fine dart. And then you have Bellinger. Where is he? You have Bellinger at the flat mid, who is another tight end that's just like fine. If you want to go there, I think I prefer the Seattle tight ends, but another dart if you need it. I think I definitely do prefer the Seattle tight ends to Bellinger. So I think that's going to do it, guys. I hope this video helped you out, and I will hopefully talk to some of you tomorrow.